Okay. So then I was very anxious. I didn't get a clinical diagnosis of anxiety, but I think I ticked all the boxes. I just didn't actively go and seek help
Right.
because it was deadline driven. It needed me to get there. So that's where I learned most of the ways that I started coping with work. And I must say it was one of the biggest things that drove me to to starting Promote Balance and actively working on improving well-being in the workplace and productivity on the backdrop of well-being. So I'll give you some of the things that worked for me that I advocate
Yes.
for. And I was saying there, number one for me is biohacking. So a lot of scientific studies look at the brain and see what sort of brain regions are active when we are doing certain things. And that those kind of studies tell you a lot about what you can do to improve your ability to work, your well-being as an individual, not like from the workplace perspective. So number one for me was meditation. So
Okay.
yes, so I don't do it spiritually, but I do it for the biohacking principles of it. But if you do
Okay.
it spiritually, even better, I guess. So
Okay.
then with meditation, what it helped me do is it helped me to numb my thoughts. So
Okay.
you acknowledge the thoughts, but at the same time, you are non-judgmental. You don't act on them because with anxiety, remember, you get a lot of thoughts. What if this didn't happen? Like such scenarios that you create in your head about what can happen, what can go
Yes.
wrong. So it
Yes.
helps you to not judge those thoughts, but shelve them somewhere and continue working. Because
Okay.
one thing that will affect your well-being is not being able to actually complete the work that you're doing.
Yes.
So that for me
Yes.
helped me to complete the work, meet deadlines, because then my anxious thought got numbed. I heard them, I accepted them, but I didn't act on them. Then I continued on the work from a more
Okay.
objective perspective. So
Okay.
that's one biohacking principle. Number two for me is celebrating small wins, because the one thing that wants us to focus on life, and not work as well, is because we're not finding that we are winning at work, but we are winning at life. Our children are going to work. My friends, I've got two friends, I've got a working personal romantic relationship, so to speak. So we prefer to then focus on that because we're seeing it's obviously working. But
Yes.
then for work, the boss is saying you didn't do this, the manager is saying you didn't do that. But if you do like small tick lists of what you've done, celebrate it. Today I managed to send out the emails on time. I met 4 deadlines and I managed to have coffee with my manager.
Yeah.
That is amazing. It motivates you. It's a whole neurological principle about how it activates dopamine, and then dopamine
Okay.
keeps you motivated because the small wins then tell you that if I do this, it's enjoyable, I win, and I keep going. Yeah, and now moving out of biohacking, the next thing I would suggest is building your resilience, because that's the one thing that we lack these days. We have our parents giving us everything. We don't have to cry for anything anymore. The workplace is supposed to accommodate our need to go to the gym.
Yes.
So we end up feeling entitled. But to build your own resilience is do that thing that's difficult for you.
Okay.
Just go for it and see how far you can go in it with a growth mindset. If you fail, you'll have learned at least something in it. So then that's building your resilience. Expand your sources of information. Have people outside of accounting if it's for you. If it's for me, get circles outside of wellness and health and psychology. Get to know people in sporting, in gambling. That
Yes.
broadens your ability to view the world differently, and that builds resilience. So I think resilience is one really big part we must go to. And the third and last thing I'm going to talk about is building your emotional intelligence, because in this world, we are going to need to be more human because the computers are doing a lot of all the concrete tasks. So the
Yeah.
special things that human beings can do, we need to 10x on those,
Yeah.
because those are the things that are going to help us to actually promote our ability to do life and our ability to do work differently than what the computer can do. And
Exactly.
that creates that balance. And I think my points sound a lot more related to work, but it's because work makes us anxious. It's what, if we don't do work fine, it is what makes our life not go. if we can't do quickly our tasks or our deadlines, like I was saying, then I can't have a life. So they seem like they're related too much to work, because we want to just master that part so that life can then have a place to come in as well.
Yes, you hit so many chords with me as you were speaking, especially as you explained your anxiety. And I think I had reached out to you at a certain point in my life. I think it was towards the latter part of last year, telling you, I just can't cope. I'm moving from deadline to deadline to deadline. And you mentioned the biohacking meditation. We must definitely do that. And it hit with me because I didn't even know, or I didn't even know what to tell me, that it was anxiety. And until you hadn't pointed it out to me, I didn't even think that there was anything wrong, because everyone around you is doing it. It becomes normal, even though it doesn't feel right, you know? And you've hit so many chords, and I love the advice that you've given, because I think it can help so many of us who work, and majority of us work in corporate. So like many, like me, who wouldn't know what to term it, you've explained it so well. Building your resilience, again, such an important characteristic that we often even overlook, and that builds onto so many different things. And the emotional intelligence in terms of being more human. Thank you. Those were great nuggets of wisdom that I will definitely also look at further incorporating, because the more aware we become as leaders, the more empowered our staff also feel as a result, because we should not make it normal, and we should be able to talk about such things. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, it really hits many chords with me.
Thanks, Fatima. I mean, I think one thing we do at Promote Balance is to make sure this knowledge gets translated to action, because we are so good at reading. I think everyone right now knows what mental health is, knows what productivity is, but no one is there to take us step by step to say, okay, we're talking of mindfulness meditation. This is how you do it. Let's do it now. And that's the one thing that we are trying to do every day, Promote Balance, not just share knowledge, but actually get to doing stuff. So you and I must actually do that meditation.
Yes, we need to. We need to. So what I also wanted to ask you is, with the impact of COVID that it has had on individuals, families, companies, and I mean life in general, what trends have you seen emerging that are shaping the future of work, and specifically on the well-being bits?
Well, I'm seeing that people are going towards, I think the biggest thing for me is people are going towards meaningful living. People are looking for things that are purposeful and meaningful to them. That's the biggest thing. It sounds more on the life, but it obviously then affects work, because COVID helped us learn so many things at so many levels. It helped us learn that life is unpredictable, it's short. Let's do all we can with the time we have. And the one thing that everyone keeps saying is seeking meaning, be it in a job, at home, the way you spend your time. So I think the workplace has now become a place where if people's whys, or if people's purposes don't gel with the organization or the role that they are in, there's going to be quite a lot of imbalance and dissonance around how people feel about what they're doing. So from a well-being perspective, that is the biggest learning I've seen with regards to how people view work. It's how meaningful is this to me? And employers are also looking, how can we make it more meaningful for our employees? How can we then just focus more on the person? I've got no idea how many post-COVID webinars we've done for organizations that actually just want us to focus on the employee and not necessarily on their work. Like, how can we make this workplace more meaningful to you as a person? So I think in anything that we do, it's now important to leverage your strengths. Look at what can I do best in the organization. What can I say? I mean, I might as well just die tomorrow with COVID, God forbid. But I don't want to die and not have lived my purpose, not have maximized my strengths in the workplace. So workplaces are looking a lot more about how can we make this person most useful to us, especially where suddenly everyone was expected to work from home. Suddenly there were no group meetings anymore. Everyone has to be in a mask. People don't go to the workplace anymore. So it's now looking at how can we leverage each and every person's strengths as an individual so that they feel like a bigger part of the purpose of the organization.
That is so true. I mean, I also had to deeply reflect, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
and how is it serving myself and what I need to achieve in the world before you die? I think we had assumed, life is long, and this pandemic has shown us otherwise. And there's many really unfortunate effects of this, but I think this one is a very positive one as we really look and question so many things. I've questioned the way I shop, what I shop for, how I shop. Do I really need it? What truly brings me happiness, even from a work perspective, I look at what's in my control, what can I do and what can't I, and we never thought like that.
No, we didn't. It was just going in. It had become like autopilot. I go to work, I do this, I leave, and no meaning was attached. But I must also say the other thing is the social connectedness. Like, how do we keep it there in the workplace? Imagine a new employee that joined during online work. Are we ever going to know them? Who are they? Are they a good fit in courts? Because that's also very questionable when we throw it out. But how are they going to learn the culture of the company when we are all working away? So I think that idea of being more human has actually come in strongly. Like, how do we build a culture, an organizational culture with people working in 1 million locations in the company? How do we do that? So HR people, human development people have had a big task on their hands to say, how do we define the culture of this organization regardless of remote working? So that's one trend that has changed as well in the organization, just being more human.
And we thought it was not doable. That's what we were told, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's impossible, we cannot, you have to be here. And for me, the way I like to look at it from my perspective is the endless opportunities this has created. You can work for anyone from anywhere and deliver outstanding results. And companies are starting to embrace that and working with their HR individuals to get that culture right, to get that, I've enrolled for a study course, and my partner is based in Nigeria on something on the case study live module we need to do. Wow. And traditionally, before COVID, we would have to go into campus, right? And look at this now, and we're studying with people from Peru and India and so many from Latin America, Brazil, China, Vietnam, and I'm thinking, I am learning so much more. And had this been a course confined to the classroom, would we have been able to unlock all of this? And I just see it as, wow, endless opportunities that we can now unlock as humans.
Completely agree. And I mean, it goes beyond the course you're discussing. It then goes into their cultures. What have they seen? And we are getting to, I think the global village idea is getting realized much quicker and at a higher and more extensive level than we've ever imagined.
Yes. Yeah. The next thing I'm going to study is culture, because I have realized with this global items, the nuances in different cultures. And because I work, most of my career for the last 6-7 years has been across Africa, you pick up different cultural differences here, but when you start looking at it from a global context, because we never worked with, for example, Europe or the UK as much, the cultural nuances, Shai, are, and maybe it's because I've started becoming mindful and it's something I want to delve deeper into. It is amazing how, when you work to their culture, how you can unlock so much more value.
Absolutely. Absolutely amazing.
Changes the ball game completely. And I was introduced to this concept, in a book that I was reading, and I didn't even realize I used to do that, because the way I work with someone in Nigeria is very different to the way I work with someone in South Africa. compared to how I work with someone in Mozambique, and I have to constantly be changing. And I was doing it because it's what I've worked and you know, my straightforward attitude in terms of how we work in South Africa wasn't helping me in the African context. And you don't even, and you do it because you realize this gets you results, and you don't even realize that there's a whole theory that goes behind it. It's amazing.
Yes, that you've been applying, and imagine if you study it intently. Just because you raised this, I think there's a whole idea around social intelligence where we talk about unconscious competence. So that's the level you were at. You were competently working with those people culturally, but you were unconscious of what you were doing. And imagine what would happen if you're like conscious and competent. You'll obviously look more into the individual and cultural nuances that you're talking about. But it's absolutely different, Fatima. I mean, I've been in the background of work in Mozambique, and it's absolutely different. It's very, very different.
I mean, worlds apart. I guess with that, I now know why at my previous company, I would be sent to Angola and Mozambique on business, even when it had nothing to do with finance. And my boss would say, "You are going." And I'm like, "It has nothing to do with finance." And he's like, "But you understand the people there." You just go. Now I get why I would be, because it is absolutely different. The rest of the team would ask, they wouldn't be able to get it done. Here I go, I ask, and I will even be treated to a dinner, and my boss is like, you see why you have to go.
Your magic. But I mean, I think in all the examples you're giving, Fatima, it's coming out clearly that your emotional intelligence is very high. Because I mean, you don't need to know their language or know their ancestors and their cultures and what. You just need to see them, realize like how are they doing things, empathize, and give it back in that way. And that's a great strength. Well done.
Thank you. And I mean, for all our audiences, why I'm raising it is because, as you've mentioned, the future of work is going to be shaped by this. As we become a global playground, as we start working fundamentally, and to enhance that productivity, right? At the end of the day, what we want is to unleash that productivity. And understanding that culture in that new way of working is going to be so important, or at least I think so.
No, it is. It actually is. I agree with you. Yeah.
Great. So, you know, we've been discussing what the future of work looks like. I think we've summarized and made some points. Anything else that you'd like to add in terms of what the future of work would look like besides what we've discussed now? Anything that you think maybe we've missed out?
Sure. I think the future of work is going to be competitive. I think it's not a new point, but just summarizing what we've been saying. It's going to be very competitive because we are looking at machines that are more efficient. Talking of productivity, they don't get tired. So why would I hire a human being? Then I need them to then get into understanding those cultural nuances, understanding people as people. People leadership is going to be way more competitive than you having certain qualifications that will look good on the CV. So I think what I would just say is it's going to be very competitive from a human perspective, because productivity in itself is going to be done a lot by the computers. And we are now competing with people from Pakistan, we're competing with people from China, who know the technical skills of some of the things we do even better, or Europe, I don't know. And here I am just saying, I've got 1 million qualifications, so pay me $1 million, 1 million rands, and yet someone in India with more experience and more qualifications than you is asking for half as much, and they can work remotely. So what are you bringing in? It's going to be a very competitive world. And I think one thing we can actually do is to improve our human management, people management skills, to stand out from someone from another part of the continent who wouldn't really understand the cultural nuances in this context, or otherwise. So,
Thank you for bringing that. That is so true, and we talk about it, but never summarize it in that way. And that's that truly does hit home, because you're right. You go in any services that you need, you can get someone at any corner of the globe offering that.
Absolutely. For less.
And now you have to say, what is my brand? What makes me different? And why should you give it to me and not them?
Yes. And it all goes to people management, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, Shai, I mean, you've grown, evolved, gone through so many phases. If you had to give your younger self any piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, this is a topic that's so close to me these days, Fatima. So I went to an all-girls high school, and all girls is great in that, I don't know, it's woman empowerment, but these days I'm focusing very much on what I could have done differently in an all-girls school, where you were not allowed to say, I want to be a prefect for once, because then they'll say, you are campaigning and you're not allowed to campaign, but why not? You get what I mean?
Yes,
Because in the world, on a day-to-day basis, I have to campaign to get business. I have to pitch and say I'm the most suitable. I have to negotiate and say the income, or maybe the contract, the amount you're going to pay us for this doesn't really gel with what we're looking for. And yet I grew up in a context I was told a girl is not supposed to outwardly be ambitious or outwardly show what they want. And I think I would tell my younger self that, you know what, you are entitled to negotiating for what you want. You're entitled to express your ambition for who you want to be. And you are allowed to rise as a star. I mean, you don't have to be apologetic. We would hide a mark. I was quite clever in high school, so I'd get like A's. So you would hide your A because everyone is complaining how difficult the test was. But in a boys' environment, in what I've seen recently, they would actually laugh at you for not getting a high mark. They would say, let's see who's the good one here, So I just wish things had been a little bit different. And I think I would have sprouted earlier if I had realized that it's okay to be ambitious. It's okay to negotiate what I want up front, and it's okay to compete. Yeah.
What you're saying, I mean, I spoke with a colleague yesterday, another lady, and we touched on exactly this, negotiating what we're worth. And she was sharing that when she voiced it, how she was feeling that she's doing something wrong. And it's because we've been told, like what you're saying, we must be humble. You must, do what is needed. Asking is a no. You will get what you deserve. You will get what, and it is so amazing. You're so right. And I think this is even a whole topic on its own, and a conversation that is, women, we need to actually have more, because it really is okay. The men support each other, the men push each other. And when they don't ask, it's like they feel that it's unnatural for them.
Yes.
And when you look at how I had brothers as siblings, so it's me and my sister and two brothers.
Yeah.
And you're so right in terms of, my father always had promoted you are opinionated, you do, but at the end of the day, you must know that you are a woman. And, when you look in terms of how my brothers were raised, and I always used to think, but does it have to be like that? Is it like that? Is it right? And I think it's become our duty to talk, to change that narrative, so the women coming behind us, they don't feel. And you're so right. It's okay to negotiate. It's okay to ask. One of my objectives this year is to ask more, because I'm so nervous. I think it's because from a young age, it's been drilled in, I get so nervous to ask, and now I make it a purpose. And that's why it's one of my objectives. Ask more, listen more, not talk more. And I'm learning so much more. But why is this? And I'm not doing it for any other reason, but to truly and deeply understand. And asking more gives you that power, that what you're saying. And I'm glad to know it's not those few of us, because we don't talk about it much, that then sometimes you realize, or that's why me and my colleague were talking, is is it just us, or are there others? And why are we feeling like this?
Unfortunately.
You know?
Yeah, we need this. I mean, I'm currently reading this book with a group of ladies that's Lean In. You must read it. I can so relate to what the lady's saying, like how a lot of us women actually feel like that. I'm sure there are a lot of men that also feel like that because of how they were also brought up. I think this work has made me realize that the struggles we have as women are not unique to women. There are men that also struggle with that.
Yes.
But generally speaking, as women, we just very distant. I like this phrase where she says it's considered a bad word to ask and negotiate your your worth.
And we feel guilty. Like I was consoling to say you shouldn't be feeling guilty about this. You should be very proud about what we do, because inherently.
Exactly. No, this is a whole conversation we must have. Hey, it's really deep.
And I mean, you mentioned the book. If you had to recommend one book that you would advise to someone to read in their lifetime, one book that you feel can make such a impact, it's a must read, what would you recommend?
I would struggle with choosing one, but let me answer the question and choose one. And I would say it's Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence and Working with Emotional Intelligence. You know why I would choose that one? It's because of the whole conversation we've had and how emotional intelligence, in my opinion, is the superpower. I mean, if you look at lists of what the workplace would look like 10 years from now, all of the lists actually include a lot of emotional intelligence competences like adaptability, teamwork, negotiation, inspirational leadership, everything that comes from emotional intelligence and working with emotional intelligence. So that's the book I would recommend. But allow me to choose that second book again.
Yes,
Because of the last conversation we've had, it's the Lean In Women Work and the Will to Lead by Sheryl Sandberg. She's one of the executives in the Facebook, and she's worked in Google, like the top. And I'm one of those people. I don't know if I ever told you that I don't like a lot of women's books because they sound to me like memoirs. But for her, it's straight to the point and it's relatable from page one. And you realize, okay, if the head of Google or Facebook struggled with this, or like an executive in there, how different am I? I'm more likely to struggle with it with less wins even. But it's such an empowering book. So yeah, I'll put emotional intelligence up on the top, and then I'll put the Lean In secondly, especially for women or men that want to understand why women make a noise about how so different the workplace is for us.
Well, I haven't read either. Two other ladies have actually, one last week and one the week before, told me that I must read Lean In. So I actually have my copy.
Oh, great.
I'm going to start reading that next week. I was like, okay, I need to finish because I hate leaving a book midway, and I'm busy with one. So I've got Lean In, and I'm going to get my hands on the emotional intelligence one that you've mentioned. Sounds very exciting and something that I'm quite interested in. So thank you so much for that, Ishai.
Yeah, I think any leader, any people's leader needs to read that emotional intelligence book, because we tend to approach leadership as everyone should be aspirational, everyone should be like me. But that book actually helps you to understand that people are just not the same. And how do we navigate the guy that comes with a gym bag versus the ambitious person that is sitting on the desk and probably not doing most of the work, just being busy.
Exactly. And it's becoming even more complex as we have to navigate working offsite, etc. I mean, it is. And I really look forward to that. And I wanted to thank you. It's been a very informative conversation for me. I'm sure the viewers will also feel the same, for your time and sharing your wisdom and pearls of advice that will be invaluable. So thank you. I do appreciate that.
Thanks, Fatima. I had to look at the time again because it felt like we can still go on, and it felt so short. Thank you very much for having me, and thanks a lot to the viewers. I would really love to hear from them. And I think this topic is very polarized. There are people that think differently to the views that we've put up. And I would really love to hear those views and take on more conversations from this. Thank you very much for your time.
We will definitely. So my viewers are generally love commenting and sharing their thoughts. So
yeah.
I will definitely tag you, and then we can even continue the conversation based on what they raise.
Yeah.
Right. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you. And you too. Cheers. Bye.